Hey everyone, welcome back to White Sparrow Living, Luke 12:6. I'm Wendy, and today it is Christmas in July. I've got some Dollar Tree DIYs for your holiday home decor. I'm also collabing with some sweet friends, and I'll tell you about that in just a bit. And now, without further ado, let's get started. For our first project, we're going to be using two of these Dollar Tree cylinders. I'm not really sure what they're supposed to be used for because they're kind of short. I've used them before for my twine and they do come in handy. But I'm going to use some white electrical tape to turn these into little candy canes. I'll have this linked in the description box below, but I got this from Amazon when I was doing another project. So again, this has come in handy too. Now you could totally use white ribbon for this project and just wrap it around like I'm doing here and use your hot glue gun. But I still wanted these to be functional and be able to be opened and closed. So this way I'll be able to cut through that electrical tape and the lids will, pop off and I'll be able to use them to store something in. So I did a couple of different designs with my tape. I didn't want them to be exactly the same. So I just went around starting at the top and then made it swirl all the way around to the bottom. And I'm leaving quite a bit over the edge so that I can cut it down and get a little more detailed once I'm done wrapping them. So once I got both of my canisters completely wrapped, I'm going to go back and address the top and the bottom. And all I did was take my Cricut spatula and my fingernail and kind of tuck that into the lip of those canisters. They've got a little, well, you can see it there. It's a little lip that goes over the tops of that top cardboard piece. So you can just kind of push it in there. And then I went back with my craft knife and just cut those off so it has a nice pretty finished edge both on the top and the bottom. So then I went in again with my craft knife and kind of pulled apart the sections between the top and the bottom. And then it gave me just enough room to get my craft knife in there and split along those electrical tape cross where, where they cross over. And then that way I can pull off the lid. And I went back in with my fingers and kind of pushed it down a little harder to make sure that it didn't come up. It was pretty snug as a bug in a rug, but I just wanted to make sure it stayed in place and didn't come apart. So Dollar Tree carries in the plus area the $5 LED pillar candles. And I love these so much because they have a real flame, or, it makes it look like a real flame. It kind of flickers, but it's the perfect size for the tops of these canisters to be held in as a candle holder or a candlestick, and they stay in place. So I could not find my Christmas greenery. I later found it after my fourth project, I think, and I was so bummed because I could have used it on all of the rest. But I did have this really pretty holly, and I had these ornaments from Dollar Tree that I just borrowed the greenery from on that. And I'm just going to embellish the fronts of these candle holders with a little bit of that. So I'll just hot glue down a couple of holly leaves and then some of that pine greenery. And the ornaments had little berries on there as well as some little plastic pine cones. So I'm going to be using those as well. But first I'm going to add a sweet little bow, and instead of using regular ribbon, I'm going to use some of this Dollar Tree mesh and just fold it over in thirds, because all of my ribbon that I had, all of the Christmas ribbon, kind of clashed with the candy cane design. So I thought this was a little more subtle, but still had a little Christmas flair in it with the red sparkly bits going through it. And then I just used a chenille stem to wrap that together, cut off the ends, and then I'll hot glue that onto the greenery, and then add my berries and a pine cone. And then just for a little bit more cuteness and to cover that chenille stem, I used some Dollar Tree bells to put right on top. So the Dollar Tree bells, these are the super small ones, and they had two different kinds of the silver. There was one that was just regular silver bells, but then there was also this little bit of gold added to it, and I thought that was really pretty. It's more of like a champagne, but you can add whatever you want, and the Dollar Tree bells do come in all sorts of different colors. And then once I got them both done, I'm just going to add the candles to the top. And when you're done with this, you can store them away by just opening them up and sticking the candles inside until you're ready for next Christmas. And here they are, all finished. And I think these are so adorable and super, super easy. They're also functional. So if you want to put some little candy treats inside or cookies or something fun for the kids, it's a little scavenger hunt at Christmas time. But I love this, and I hope you guys like it too. Well, it is that time again. I am so blessed to be teaming up with these beautiful ladies. We do this once every quarter or so, and we're already planning for our next fall video. What the what? We've got Linda at Linda's DIY by Design, Emily at Farm Charm Chic, and Patty at Patty J Good. Now let me tell you, these girls are the real deal. So if you're looking for some amazing crafting and inspiration for your home decor, just check out the playlist that'll be linked everywhere. Let them know I sent you, and I promise you will be wowed. Now, if you're stopping by from one of their channels, welcome to our little sparrow's nest. I'm Wendy, and I am so happy you're here. So if you've seen the new vases that Dollar Tree carries, they've got some really big substantial ones for $5. I picked up one of these fluted ones, and this thing is so heavy and looks so high end. I love it. I also picked up one of these candle holders. That sign there says $3, but these are $5 as well. So I'm going to turn this into a high-end looking lantern, or, like a big candle holder. So there's a perfect little area underneath or on the bottom of this glass piece, and the candlestick fits perfectly inside of that. And so I'm going to add some all-purpose adhesive and a little bit of hot glue to keep it in place just for the immediate hold. But I let this sit, and I really did use my fruit of patience because I let it dry overnight so that I wouldn't have any mishaps while I was putting this together. So then I took some Dollar Tree little berries, and these come where they're all attached in little bundles of 3. So I put my large candle from that trio that I used before inside, but the berries were too close to the edge, so they went like in a perfect row all the way around, and I didn't like that look. I wanted it to be like a little bundle of the berries. They're supposed to look like cranberries. So I'm going to change that candle out with another Dollar Tree skinnier candle. And then to embellish this, I'm just going to take some of this pretty red velvet ribbon that I got at Marshall's last year, and I'm just going to make a sweet little bow. And I dovetailed the ends of these, but it's kind of hard to cut this thick of ribbon in that dovetail way because it kind of mushes up. But anyway, it's still super cutie patootie. And then I just added some Christmas greenery. This was after I found my greenery. I had a whole box of it because I kept a bunch of Christmas stuff out and in my shed out back specifically for Christmas in July because I always forget and then I have to go searching for things. So anyway, I just added some greenery behind the ribbon. I put a little bit on the front and then added some more berries in that cluster of 3 and it was done. And here it is all finished, and you saw how easy that was, but I think this looks so, so pretty and looks expensive to me. Now, my berries, because I do a lot of crafts and I use a lot of berries in my Christmas projects, I keep them in one container, so I don't know how many packages it would take to actually do this project. I did count my stems of 3 and there were 60 stems. So however many comes in the Dollar Tree packs, that's how many you would need divided by 60. But I love it and I hope you guys like it too. For this project, I'm using one of these cookie tins from the Dollar Tree, and this is super cute the way it is. I didn't plan on painting this, but as a last minute decision, I did go ahead and paint it. And then I'm going to use one of these little reindeer ornaments that come in the big packs, and then a couple of, or all 3 of these trees actually. So I'm going to go ahead and mask off the window here and make sure that when Michael J takes it out to paint, I'm not going to get any of that on that acrylic piece and you'll still be able to see through it. So I just put some thick painter's tape around the edges. I wanted the little bit of gold where the rim was. It was kind of a gold color. I wanted that to stay gold. You kind of don't even really notice it, but I just put all of that down. And then I took my craft knife and went around the little seam around the edge. There's a little, nook in there, a little valley. So you just drag your craft knife through there so you get a really good cut. And then Michael J took it outside and spray painted it with some white Krylon spray paint. And you can see there the sides, it'll show if you don't give it a good coat or 2. So then I took 4 of these Dollar Tree little Christmas wood pieces, and then I have some little discs. I used 3 of those. I'm going to paint all of those gold, and then I have a Jenga piece that I'm going to paint white. Now I'm using Plaid's pure gold acrylic paint, and I just put it on an upside down piece of painter's tape so that they would stay in place while I painted them. And this took 2 coats. I love this pure gold paint. It just really shines and has the perfect Christmas look if you want that gold touch. Now this Jenga piece is just going to be kind of a technical piece, so I painted it white just in case it peeks through. So now once my spray paint is all dry, I'm going to take my painter's tape off, and I just love a tape reveal, and these had the most crisp corners, and I did a really good job of masking this off. So I'm going to also take some of these little Dollar Tree snowflakes. I'm going to make a little scene in here that you'll be able to see through the window. So I put these in the background, and my tin is a gold color, so I didn't have to paint that and just glued those into the back side. I'm going to be adding more in just a second. But then I took my trees and I put a big one in the front and then the medium one in the back, kind of hugging each other. And then I'll take that third one and put it over on the right side toward the back as well. And then I wanted my snowflakes to not just be so flat against the back, so I put a little bit of hot glue on the tips of a couple of those and then attached it to the side and the top of my tin coming towards me so that it gave it more of a 3D look. Now I'm going to take my Jenga piece and my utility knife, and I just made a little hole in there so that my reindeer hoof can just tuck right inside of that little hole using some hot glue. And then I added a little bit extra on the outside, and you have to hold it there for a minute until it dries so that it stays in place. And then I put some hot glue at the bottom of my Jenga piece, and I'm going to put my reindeer toward the front. And then that way he's in front of the whole scene. It's just such a pretty little scene. And you know I love miniature scenes. And then when I put my lid back on top, you can see right in there and it's nice and 3D looking. Now I did these things a little bit out of order, so I'm going to tell you how you should do it and not how I did it, because I'm always making things a lot more difficult than if I would have done it the right way the first time. So I'm taking this 14 gauge wire and it's pretty stiff, but that's good for certain projects. I'm going to take a little piece and bend it into a V and then bend it so that it goes over the little lip of my tin on the bottom. We're making this into a little TV, so I thought this would be perfect for the little antennas. And then for the tops of the antenna, I'm going to use 2 silver bells, and you can see on the back of my box, I kind of dented the background when I was trying to bend my wire into place. So if you bend it, do it away from your box so that you don't dent it. You can kind of see it from the front, but it's not that noticeable. So I used some permanent adhesive and a little bit of hot glue and just poked those right on there. I should have let that dry because, you know, gosh, you really have to be patient here because there's another step and I end up knocking one off, so I'll have to redo that. So now I'm going to take my little discs and those are going to be the knobs. I was going to just have 2 because, you know, there's usually a volume and a channel if I remember right back in the day, but there's also a power button. So I ended up using 3 and I thought it looked cute anyway. So I just added 3 knobs, but you can do whatever you want. Now this is the part that I should have done very first, and that's why I knocked off one of my legs. And I'm going to take some fairy lights. I'll have these linked in the description box below. This is actually my last string of lights, so I'm going to have to order some more from Amazon. But I just took my big fat nail and made a hole in the back where a tree is going to be covering it, so you won't see that hole. And then I fed my whole string of lights in through there, and then I started wrapping it around the rim of my tin. So I used some little clamps to hold them in place because I went around, I think, a total of 3 times. So in order to get that to stay in place while I'm wrapping it, those little clamps came in handy. Then I used some of that white electrical tape and tried to tape it down as close to the front of the tin or the top of the tin so that you couldn't see it once I put my lid back on, and through that window you won't be able to see that electrical tape. But this all would have been a lot easier to do if I would have done that first thing. And then once I have everything in place, I'm going to take my faux snow from the Dollar Tree using my grandbaby's old baby spoon. I'm never going to get rid of this spoon. And then just shoveled that right into the bottom. And it always takes more faux snow than you think you're going to need. So when you think you have enough, keep going because you're going to need more. And now you see why we painted that little Jenga piece white, so that when I turn it upside right, all that snow is going to cover the ickies at the bottom. And then for embellishment, I really thought the whole TV was just cute enough as is, but I just took a couple of pine pieces from one of those ornaments and then added a sweet little bow, cut off the ends, and then hot glued the tails into the places where I wanted them to be. And then I also used some more of that electrical tape to tape my on-off switch and the little battery pack there onto the back of my TV, and then it was done. And here it is all finished. I love this little guy so much. This is just bringing back so many memories. If you guys remember the regular old TVs where you had 3 channels, life was so much simpler and you didn't have 70, 11 streaming services and things you have to buy in order to watch certain movies. But anyway, I love this so much and I hope you guys like it too. So I thrifted this little pedestal a while back. I don't even remember how long ago it was, but it had a bunch of ickies on there. So I used my Cricut spatula to get all of that off. Now I wanted to originally leave this as wood, but it was a little too yellow. So I end up painting the top portion of it. I wanted to keep some of that wood showing on the side. It was a little bit darker and not so yellow, but I knew I could use this for a dome of some sort. So again, in the Dollar Tree vase section with these mega big vases for $5, I found these that I thought if you turned it upside down, it might look like a dome. So I picked up one that didn't have a bunch of stuff inside of it. So I'm going to use that upside down and make a little dome tree scene in here. So I'm going to take a Clorox disinfectant wipe and set that on top of the sticker and then come back to it later and the sticker just comes completely off. Now I'm using my white folk art chalk paint to paint the top of it. I wasn't sure if I was going to leave the outer top edge in the wood also, but it just looks so yellow next to the white. So I end up going ahead and painting the entire top portion of my little stand. And then the sides, because it was a little bit darker, I did decide to go ahead and leave that the raw wood. So I made sure that my vase was really clean, especially on top, because I'm going to add a little finial to it. Now I had this fall off of some curtain rod at some point and it was broken at the top. I don't know if you can see it here. There it is. That's all chipped off. But I used my all-purpose cement again, and I'm going to glob that on there because I really want this to hold. And this time I didn't add any hot glue because I wanted it to be all cement and make sure that it stays in place because my vase is pretty heavy and I want to be able to actually use it and lift it by this finial. So now I'm going to take some pretty trees from the Dollar Tree, and I found this really pretty blue one. There were a couple of blue ones, different shades. And because I changed my living room recently into blue, I do plan on adding some blue in my Christmas this year. But it turned out that this particular blue didn't quite go with my living room. It's still really pretty, and I should have shown it to you with the blue one in there. But I end up using all greens and whites, and I'm just going to keep checking to see that they're mushed together and they're going to fit under my dome. And so I'll just keep checking until I get all of the little trees that I want in there. I use some of the smaller ones to give it different heights and levels, and then a little mini tree in one of the little corners. And if you just mush them all together with your hands, they kind of just, the branches intertwine amongst each other and it keeps them all snug as a bug in a rug. I didn't even glue them down to the pedestal because I can change these out anytime I want, or just when it's not Christmas, I can use it for something completely different. So then I took some Dollar Tree ribbon and this is 5/8 inch ribbon. It's kind of a silvery color satin. It's so pretty and just so, I don't know, it looks kind of expensive also. So I just made a sweet little bow and added that to the top of my dome or my finial between the two, and then just cut the ends at an angle. And that was it for this project. And here it is all finished. And I think this is so stunning and glitzy and glammy and just looks so elegant and simple. I love how this turned out and I hope you guys like it too. So I had seen on Pinterest this adorable little cocoa set, and I thought I could make that for $29.50. But when I went to Pottery Barn, I realized it was only for the set of the 4 mugs, and I was not going to pay $29.50 for just the mugs. I wasn't even going to pay for the whole thing for $29.50, but I knew I could recreate this. Well, we had some shiplap work done in the house a while back. You may have seen that video, but we've had a lot of scraps and I thought we could use this for this project. Of course, shiplap is flat on the side that shows, but on the back side, it's got these little grooves in it. So I thought that would be really cute and give a little interest to this box. So I had Michael J cut down and make a box for me, and he just went outside and did it himself. I was going to do it. I do jump in towards the end, but it was late at night and he was in one of his maker moods. So he decided to just build the box himself. And yes, he is in his robe. So he just cut down the 4 sides using the miter saw and then glued them at the ends and put them together with a brad nailer. And then he'll use some more shiplap for the back side so that it's enclosed like the crate in the inspiration piece. And then once he got it all put together, he went back in with some caulk from Dollar Tree and just sealed up all of the joints where the wood came together. And little side note, this is what our toothpaste looks like too. Now, I know this is an unexpected and not really Christmassy color, but I think with the red, this blue looks so pretty, and I can't wait for you to see it. But he just took some old paint that we had. This is actually the color of our laundry room. And then he added some calcium nitrate, and I'll have this linked in the description box below, but he's just going to add that to it, and it's going to turn it into a chalk paint. And then he also took some leftover white paint and added that to it to make a nice, pretty, dreamy blue, and then painted the entire box with that. And what I love most about it is, well, first of all, it was his own concoction, but also when he painted it on there, the white from the shiplap was poking through, and I thought that was just so pretty. Good job, babe. So I picked up some mason jars from Walmart, or I didn't pick them up, they brought them to me. And so I'm just going to get 3 of these out, and I'm using my little helper, Connor, to get these out of the box. And then we're going to take these out so that we can measure how tall to put our little shelf. Now, the inspiration piece didn't have a shelf, but because of the measurements that he made the box, I needed to add something because I wanted to have a second area up there. And that's where I'm stepping in, and we're going to put that shelf in there using another piece of leftover shiplap. So all we did was measured it and then stuck it in there and then used our brad nailer again to keep that in place and snug as a bug in a rug. And I really wanted to make some contribution to this, so I had to go ahead and step in. So I'm going to take my ball jars and we're going to fill them with some different goodies. And I wish you guys could smell this because it's crazy good. So we've got one with marshmallows. We'll just close that up. And then I'm going to add some Swiss Miss milk chocolate. And we'll add that to another mason jar, or ball jar, I should say. Put the lid right back on. Oh yeah. And even though it's about 100 degrees today, it's still super fun making this. Now, I didn't have any candy cane or peppermint sticks like the inspiration piece since it is in the middle of July. But I do have these Dollar Tree straws. So just to give you the effect, And technically you could just use these too. Just a little bit shorter so that they all fit in there. And then put the lid on those. And then for this shelf, I found these Dollar Tree little containers. And these are just plastic, but they're still super cutie patootie. And just in case your cocoa is not sweet enough, and FYI, this is my trick that I always did with my kids. Well, and me, because I didn't think they were sweet enough. That's a bad thing, but we'll add some sugar. And then in this other one, I was actually going to add some oats, some rolled oats. These right here, which my uncle has every morning. And Michael J adds some brown sugar and cinnamon and things. That's another thing you could add in here is some cinnamon. But we're going to add cookies because who doesn't love cookies with their hot cocoa? I'll place that in there. And then those pop right in there. And then you could also make this into a tea station and put some leaves of tea in here. But I got these sweet little hearts. I don't know what they're called, but you know, you put the tea inside and then stick it into your teacup. These are so cute. So you see you put your tea or tea bag or whatever. I think it's for loose leaf tea. I've never used them before because they're so cute. But here they are. They're so adorable. So I'm going to hang those right up here. And to do that, I'm going to use these little hooks. And I'll just hook one right at the top right here. So I'll make a little hole, pilot hole to start it, and then just twist it in like this. And then I'll take these, and since they're the same length, I want them staggered, so I'm going to take one of the little hooks there and put it down on the first one, and then we'll hang that right there. Isn't that cutie patootie? And then now on top, this is where I'm going to place my adorable little Santa cups, and they'll go right on top, just like that. Maybe a little straighter. And it's done. And then I forgot to add my little cinnamon sticks at the bottom there, so I'll just add those now. But that's it, and it's all done, and here's how it turned out. I love this so much. I kind of got carried away with my staging because I kept adding things, and I wanted to include a picture of my mom and my siblings. That picture was from my dad's funeral, so I wanted to add him also. So I just had these around, and this just brings back so many memories in those little mugs that we always had at home during Christmas. And my grandma, my mom's mom, was notorious for her hot cocoa. She had the best cocoa ever. And so we just had a really great time at Christmas. We had cocoa all the time though. But I love the little TV with the antennas. Again, that brings back so many memories of my childhood. But I just love how this turned out, and I hope you guys like it too. I hope you enjoyed all of these projects, and if you did, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, comment, let me know what you think, hype it, share it, clip it, do all of the things. Don't forget to check out Emily, Linda, and Patty's videos and see what they came up with for Christmas in July. If you're not already, I hope you'll consider hitting that subscribe button down below as well as the little bell right next to it so that you can be notified every time I upload a brand new video. Remember the reason for every season. I hope everyone has a blessed day, and remember to always be the light. Bye!